The Steelers' offensive line. There's been a lot of talk about Troy Fautanu, Zach Frazier, Brandon Thor, who is one of, if not the best offensive line analyst out there, said the other day that Zach Frazier might already be a top 10 center in the NFL, which is massive expectations. Everybody wants to know what the Steelers' starting offensive line is going to look like in 2024 and how damaging it could be if a guy like Troy Fautanu or Zach Frazier is not out there. And I think it's time to just dive into a little bit, because the way I look at it, and I think other analysts and other insiders and other beat reporters are kind of starting to toss it out there, that Troy Fautanu isn't viewed right now as a guy who is expected to start at the start of the 2024 season. I think I sit in that same notion. I don't believe that Troy Fautanu is ready to be a starting right tackle in the NFL. I'm very worried that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to try to make Dan Moore a right tackle and not a left tackle, because I want Broderick Jones to play left tackle. I think that's where he should be playing. I don't think Dan Moore is very good at right tackle. So I want to ask you this, and then I'll give you my thoughts on the situation. Is it better to continue to delay Broderick Jones and his development on the left side, or have Dan Moore and Troy Fautanu, who both may not be capable of being productive starting right tackles this season, compete on the right side so that Broderick can play the left?
I think if you're looking at it from a stance of where the Steelers are at right now, which is Super Bowl or bust, we've said that all summer long, the best thing you can do is put Dan Moore on the left, Broderick on the right to start the season. And whenever Troy's ready, you make that switch and you put Broderick back on the left and you have Troy starting on the right. I don't know how long that's going to take. Maybe it's a similar lead up to what Broderick Jones had last season. Maybe it's a little bit longer. But if you're the Steelers, to put yourself in the best position, especially early in the season when those games are not easy, but easier than it's going to be from week 11 on, you need to have the best options out there that you possibly can. And I think the biggest strength and the best strength for the Steelers offensive line is going to be Dan Moore on the left and Broderick on the right. And I do think that, it does hurt Broderick a little bit, but at the same time, this is a guy that has been so natural on the left side and continues to be adamant that if I move over to the left, there's not going to be too much longer that it's going to take me to get used to it. He said it's going to fit like a glove. It's going to be like getting back into, some shoes that you haven't worn in a while, but they fit perfectly. I think that if you're the Steelers starting off the season, the best case scenario, if Troy's not ready, is the fact that you have to put Dan Moore on the left side, because, he can't do it on the right.
No, I agree. I look at this season, and if I'm the Steelers and I'm starting today, Dan Moore is your left tackle and Broderick Jones is your right. And I don't feel great about it, but it's more of a waiting game. You got to wait one more year maybe for Troy Fautanu to be ready to play the right side and for Broderick Jones to move over to the left, and then you go from there. It stinks only because you're narrowing your window to see exactly what Broderick Jones can develop into before you have to sign him to another deal, which isn't great. But again, it's better than my worries on the right side with Dan Moore is he's not capable of playing the right side, that he's not even remotely close to being capable of starting there every single game. And then Troy Fautanu, you stick a rookie out there. Yeah, he might develop, but how much are you going to hurt his confidence? How much are you going to have to start talking about, is Troy Fautanu a bust? What is the conversations that are being had inside and outside when it comes to a rookie who isn't ready, who got tossed into the fire, and what are the repercussions that are going to come with that? That's my worry there. And again, you have to put pads on before we truly judge some things, but you could tell the speed of the game sits on guys and takes a little bit longer for some than others. And Troy Fautanu is a guy that right now the game's moving really fast and it needs to slow down, and hopefully it does by the start of the season. But what we've seen so far, Troy Fautanu needs to continue to develop and allow the NFL to come to him, which will happen. I'm not worried about that. I'm just simply talking, here's the offensive line. What can it look like in 2024? I don't foresee Troy Fautanu being in that starting lineup in week 1. Things could change, and I'll admit when they do, but for right now, I don't see that. And I could see Broderick Jones remaining on the right side. If it goes to the left, I think things could be a bit disastrous. And that's kind of the game that you're playing. Zach Frazier on the other side, I expect to start. Unless, Nate Herbig was talking about Jason Kelce teaching him the other day. That definitely brought some up to his potential. But I still think Zach Frazier is a guy that's ready right now, and you toss him out there 100%. 100%.